Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an
The
atheist.
fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
and start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist worldwide.
For the first time ever, the Thinking Atheist radio podcast is on location tonight. We are in St. Louis, Missouri. We are in Schlafly's house of worship tonight. We are in the house of beer, which, if we were religious, we would call communion, but we will not tonight. We just finished kind of a presentation. The formal part of the evening is over, and I wanted to spend the rest of the night communicating with these fine people and just making the show about them. What do they want to talk about? What are the things that are important to them? Anything about the Thinking Atheist community that they like, that they hate, that they'd like to change, their video they have a comment on, a podcast we did, something they'd like to see covered. Whatever you guys want to talk about, there is a microphone right here. So feel free if you want. If there's a line or a queue, that's fine. If you want to pull up a chair, that's fine. And we'll just go until it feels right. Okay? All right, we'll start with you. Tell me your name.
Derek.
Derek, I want you to hold the mic, but keep this one close, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Up to your mouth.
So, being from Oklahoma, have you ever heard of Southwest Radio Ministries?
Southwest?
Radio Ministries.
I haven't.
I think they're out of Tulsa, out of Oklahoma City, maybe. Brother Noah Hutchings? No?
Oh, I've heard of Noah Hutchings. I didn't know what he called his ministry. Yeah.
That's his radio ministry. I listened to it today. Anyway, they kind of helped to deconvert me because, it was the without Adam, there's no need for Jesus. And so I just said, okay. And anyway, thinking of those kind of modern Pharisees, I was wondering if you ever, I'd have been dug back into your whole archives, if you ever did a show dealing with like Bob Duco, Brandon House, obviously Ken Ham, all these guys who are more than willing to throw the first stone.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. Or have you ever...
Well, we did a show on apologist acrobats where we talked about Kent Hovind. You
Right.
guys are familiar with Kent Hovind, right?
One of my favorites.
The guy who graduated from a trailer out in the weeds. They ran his PhD diploma off on a dot matrix printer, that kind of thing. Yeah, we did do a show. It's called Apologist Acrobat. It is in archive. Yeah.
I'll look for that. Is any of your Christian stuff that you did Christian radio, is that out there? MP3'd somewhere? Would you ever do a debate with your old self?
Anybody here old enough to remember mini disc technology? Okay. Well, my radio air checks from my Christian radio days, thank you, sir,
Thank you.
are on mini disc, which we thought were going to be a revolutionary technology, and they turned out to be the beta tape of the digital age. And I have in my upper closet, I have a mini disc player, and in a bag somewhere in the attic or a box, I have mini discs of my old show. I am going to try to do a podcast talking about Christian music and Christian ministry, and I am going to make every effort to go back and play for you the Seth the Jesus follower in contrast to Seth the hellbound heathen, and we'll play them back to back. I'm hoping to make that happen maybe in June or July. Yes?
Yes, sir. My name's Tim, and I've never heard any of your shows. Didn't know much about you before, but my daughter Brooke is your biggest fan. For her birthday, the only thing she wanted to do was come down here and see you speak. I really enjoyed the presentation.
Come here, Brooke. Everybody, this is Brooke. How old are you?
17.
Everybody together. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brooke. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Real quick, Seth and I have the same birthday, so it's just after his birthday, too.
Thank you, Bert.
So I grew up in Ohio, Catholic community. Been in the military, traveled to over 26 countries. So if anybody's traveled internationally, been exposed to a lot of different religions, cultures, and that's really opened my eyes in a lot of ways. You know, see children in a swimming pool in Saudi Arabia, they laugh like our children, you know, play like our children, but all other religions in Saudi Arabia, for example, are illegal, except Islam. But just switching gears for a second, in terms of astronomy, it seems like we're on the doorstep of age of discovery. I mean, we're discovering all kinds of other planets and so on. And a lot of, it seems like all religions are very Earth-centric. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on what happens, you know, in the future as we discover more in terms of astronomy. Thanks.
Well, this may be a Neil deGrasse Tyson question more than a Seth Andrews question. We live in a time when science is providing something new to look at and see and digest every single day. Religion hasn't given us really anything new in thousands of years, and yet there are still people who adhere to it. I think there are going to be many who are like me, who are going to all of a sudden see the more satisfying answers and maybe walk away. But I think you'll always have those people who they're happy in a box, they're safe in a box, they're comfortable in a box, right? They don't have to see it, don't have to smell it, don't have to touch it. This is all I know, this is all I want to know. I think those people will probably always exist. And I think scientific progress will probably be made in the teeth of people like that. Who's next?
Hi, most people know me as Godzilla, so that's what I'll go by. I have a severe problem with dealing with the religious people because I was never religious. So I don't know where they're coming from. And I wanted to bounce an idea off you, but maybe help me get a better grip on this. I had what they call a variable alternate reality image, where they spend the time in this alternate reality and some points on that reality impinge on ours. Few or many, depending on how realistic they are. And the people that made it through into our reality are these people that have escaped from religion. Does that make any sense to you, or am I just...
No, essentially it's the multiverse thing, where you've got the multiverses and they're all vertically lined up and they actually pass through each other at some point.
That's what I'm thinking, that, you know, I think their mind exists somewhere else and only points touch in ours. And the crazier they are, the more religious they are, the fewer the points are congruent with our universe. That's just, you know,
all
mentally,
right.
not just, you know, actual quantum type thing, but mentally, they live in another universe.
Well, if you say the word quantum, I'm leaving the building. I don't know what to do with that.
Calls for beer.
Thank you, Godzilla, for that question. I've had people say the religious are all stupid, or the religious are all mentally ill, or the religious are all damaged, or the religious are all, right, these grand, grossly overstated declarations. And if those people had thought that about me when I was going through my doubts, I would not be here tonight. I would like to think if I look in the mirror, I'm not someone who was, I mean, it's true, my culture was different. I was a product of childhood indoctrination. I was brainwashed, or whatever word you want to use, into believing the words of Scripture as truth. But I wasn't insane. I wasn't living in a parallel. I was living in this world. I was just living in a very small part of it. And I think there are moments of epiphany that happen when those worlds cross. You know, if you have someone who's never heard the name Richard Dawkins till they were 37, like, I don't know, me, how embarrassing. Never heard the name of Richard, never read the work of an evolutionary biologist who wasn't a believer until I was 37. Never read the work of Daniel Dennett till I was 37. Never even heard that these things existed. Never really delved into Carl Sagan. We used to make fun of Carl Sagan when I was a kid, right? Cosmos comes on PBS in 1980, and it was this amazing watershed moment for broadcast television. We watched it. Our parents were standing over our shoulder going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. You know what, evolution, that's wrong, that's not right, that's not right. And we bought it. I was 37 before I discovered. He was dead before I discovered Carl Sagan. And I fell in love with that guy. What a poet. What a storyteller. What an amazing person who would ignite the imaginations of children and great-great-grandparents. For Pete's sake, we're talking about a man who brought science to life. When my universe finally intersected and I saw Sagan for real, I saw some Hitchens, I saw some Dawkins, then the rest of my world did sort of begin to change. Maybe there's some truth to that. Come up here.
Hello. My name is Alex. And it's not as much of a question as it is kind of a plea for advice, because, and anybody can comment on it. I've been basically an atheist since birth, like everybody else is born that way. And then you have to be taught. The only difference is I was never taught religion because my parents weren't particularly religious. But my girlfriend is Catholic. Not really like devout Catholic. She kind of words herself as a bad Catholic. She only goes to she'll go nameless for sake of her maybe finding this at some point. Don't want to embarrass her.
So where does she think you are tonight?
Well, she actually lives like 4 hours away, so she doesn't even have to know where I am tonight.
You know, there's a solid foundation for any relationship right there.
But the problem that we have is religion itself, because she was so brought into a Catholic family, the idea of, and we plan on getting married after college and having children, but the problem we have is how would we raise them? And I know you did a podcast on this very subject, but I was at work, so I couldn't call in. And I can't even talk to her about the fact that I'm an atheist, or she knows that I'm an atheist, but we just kind of avoid the subject because and then she gets all emotional and cries and blah, 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 blah. So I just need some advice on how to start that conversation without it being a big problem, how to get that conversation going, talking about it, because it's something we're going to have to address at some point.
Run! I'm doing a podcast. I'm turning to Dr. Phil. What the hell's going on here? I am convinced and have seen evidence of, even in my own life, that the believer-non-believer relationship can work and be successful. I mean, Natalie's not an atheist. She's taken more of a deist position. We respect each other. We support each other. She helps me with my endeavors. Sometimes she comes out and helps me work the table. She is proud of me for being who I am. That's the difference. And I don't look at her and say, you are, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. I mean, we don't go like that. We have mutual respect. I have also seen evidence in a great many cases where the two are incompatible. I mean, think about the implications. You have two completely differing worldviews, and now we haven't even started talking about children yet. We did a podcast on this called Raising a Free-Thinking Child. We're about to do another show in a little bit called I Live with a Believer, which will probably have some cross territory in here. My opinion in a utopian world, Alex, is this. I believe in what Daniel Dennett says. I believe that you should teach the basic tenets of all the major religions to a child as fact, as this is what they believe, not believe in this, but This is Christianity, this is who their deity is, this is their holy book, this is their basic doctrinal statement. Here's Islam, here's their deity, here's their holy book, here's their basic doctrinal statement. And you go over here to all of these major, and you lay them out. And you teach them not what to think, but you teach them how to think. You tell them specifically what you believe. Look, your mom believes in God. She is a true believer. She holds to Scripture. She is a devout Catholic, and I respect her ability to believe. I myself do not believe. Now, you are going to have to discover in your life what it is that you believe. And good decisions come from good information. So you teach them how to construct the argument, how to examine the evidence, and how to draw their own conclusion. Now, does that happen in homes?
No.
Rarely. Very rarely. But I think if you are going to bond your life with someone that you haven't been completely honest with about your non-belief, and you're going to one day tell her, but you're already planning children, that may be a conversation that you guys want to have.
Oh, no, she already knows. She just doesn't approve. Is the problem.
So it's really about living in the same space and teaching your children?
Yeah, because she wants to raise them as Catholic because that's how she was raised. And I actually, what you said about raising children has been my plan for years with my kids. That I want to teach them as many religions as I can, because the more religions you know, the more likely you are to be atheist. And that way I'm not being hypocritical in that I'm not teaching them that what I believe is true and what everybody else believes is wrong.
They're not even born yet, and I already feel for the children caught in the middle. Right? It's already a tug of war. Honey, what are you teaching them this for? You know this is not right. You know it's factually wrong. These kids are impressionable. So you teach them the counter argument, and then they get pissed off, and they say, well, what do you think you're doing? Now you're looking like you don't respect my worldview. You look like you're stepping on my toes. You make me look like the bad person. I mean, and the kids are caught in the middle. It's a very, very difficult thing. I don't think it's impossible. But I think a long engagement might be good advice for you guys, okay?
Yeah, it's going on. It's going to go on like 6 years now.
All right. All right. I almost took a poll to see who thought this was a good idea, but I'm not going to do it.
Go.
I'm not putting them on the spot. These are good people. They do not want to go on the record. Thank you, man. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. You guys feel that? I mean, relationships are so incredibly complicated and nuanced. You're not going to put them in a cookie cutter. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different personality, a different background, different baggage. So you can't say always do this or always do that. But if you have someone who is adamant about having a child raised in religion, and you have a non-believer who is adamant about teaching them hard science that doesn't fit in the religious cookie cutter and critical thinking, you are looking at probably a series of long and sometimes complicated discussions. Come on up.
My name's Alex. My dad and I listen to your podcast
up here
frequently. I'm also looking for some advice. I mean, don't look at me like that. I'm in high school, and my classmates, they know I'm atheist, but I still get a lot of stuff about it. I've tried ignoring them. I've tried to teach them that I'm going to be my own person, but there's still those couple of kids who will look at me every time I don't say under God and the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and I'm just kind of looking, how can I either avoid those kids or have them learn to respect my own beliefs?
It's pretty cool to see a high schooler who's a free thinker and his friends know about it. That's pretty slick. By the way, your generation is going to be the game changer. People who are under the age of 30 right now are twice as likely to declare none or non-religion as their religion. People are twice as likely under the age of 30 to say they don't hold to any church or any particular faith. They're not necessarily atheist, but they're non-religious. Those numbers are skyrocketing. The Secular Student Alliance is providing evidence of that. Young people are changing the game. I was talking to Dr. Carrier about it, and he hit it on the head. He said today's young people aren't worried about the stuff that their parents were worried about at that age, right? They were worried about gays and abortion, all this other stuff. That's not their fight. They have gay friends. They support the right of non-heterosexuals to be happy. They support a woman's right to choose. That's not their fight. They're more interested in feeding hungry kids in third world countries and solving world problems than they are in the detritus that all the pebbles that their parents got hung up on. I don't think you're ever going to win respect. I like that quote somebody put on. I don't watch any of the Medea movies. It doesn't really hit my particular funny bone, but somebody put a quote up apparently from Medea in the film. It says, "It's not what you're called, it's what you answer to." I think that's exactly right. You're going to get called every name in the book. You're looking at the devil right here. Anybody here been called the devil or the devil's minion? Yeah. Or you worship the devil? That's always a fun one. Wait a minute, if I don't believe in God or the devil, how do I worship the devil? It makes no sense. What?
That's what she thought atheism was.
Satan worship?
She thought it was Satan worship.
Yeah.
And I had to explain atheism.
How do I worship Satan if I don't believe in Satan, Mom? Yeah. Honestly, I think the best thing you could do, and again, I'm no expert, this is one guy's opinion, I think you live the best life you can. You're an attractive person, you're fun to be around, you're not false in any way, you are an absolutely genuine human being living a good moral life, you have joy in your life, you have love in your life. I think people who see that in you will not be able to cram you into the stereotype of the angry, rudderless, sad, pathetic atheist, right? In fact, I have found in my circle that many people who know that, let's say they know he's an atheist, right? They brand him before they get to know him. They say, don't even talk to that guy. You know he's an atheist. He doesn't even believe in God. He must be a sad, unhappy, rudderless, pathetic human being. But let's say he and I became buddies before, and I didn't really know much about his worldview. And I find out that this guy's awesome. He's a great sense of humor. He makes me laugh. We go out and have a beer. Not yet. One day we'll go out and have a beer. He's the kind of guy, you know what, if he asked my daughter out, I might be all right with that. He's good people. He's good people. Now they drop the bomb. Wait a minute, he's an atheist? It's a hell of a lot harder for people to put you in that cookie cutter. I honestly say, don't be a jerk. Don't be a bullhorn. Don't hide it, but just be a good person. And if someone asks you about your atheism, trust me, if you are living a good life, there will be people in your circle who come to you and say, look, I'm just kind of curious. You're not going to them trying to convince them. You're living your life doing your thing, and they come tap you on the shoulder and they go, look, so-and-so said you were a non-believer, and I just got to know about this thing. I think you'll actually go a lot further by not worrying too much about them and focusing on you. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Thank
All
you.
right. Appreciate you, brother. I'm going to have to go back and get a psychology degree to be able to do another one of these live radio podcasts. Everybody's got these deep questions. I feel like life decisions are hanging on them. Come on up.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to break the streak, Seth. Anyway, I'm Tom. I've been an atheist, or I've been calling myself an atheist rather, for about 3 years now. And I found myself wanting to say more about atheism and religion in general, but I keep finding all this information and all these videos and stuff that, like you and like Phil Hellenes and all these other atheists online talking about this stuff. And it's just come across as it's hard to find a new perspective on the same things, because because you guys talk a lot about the same stuff, but I just don't know how you talk about it in a different perspective, make it your own. So I was wondering how you get your material, or how you put your own spin on it.
I'm going to cheat.
Okay.
I don't think there's a whole lot of ways you can answer the question. Yes, there are transitional fossils, because you show them the examples of transitional fossils, and those are really not going to, I mean, you can try different examples. You know, you're not going to find too many different ways to address the issue of how can you be moral without God. We did a show on morality. I encourage you to listen to it. I think it is going to remain a challenge for us to find ways to break through the wall and to take old hackneyed arguments and address them with tried and true answers, but make them fresh. That's going to continue to be a challenge. But I'm going to cheat. Can I show you guys a video real quick? Okay. I did a speech and a video and a podcast called Get Them While They're Young. You don't have to ignore this. You can ignore this slide. But I wanted to talk about the damage we're doing to our youngest and most vulnerable by targeting them, by putting them in a bubble and brainwashing them with bad science, bad history, and crazy mythology. One of the videos I showed was this clip from a little movie called Jesus Camp.
If you don't open your mouth, the Holy Spirit can't talk. All right, now I want everyone to raise your hands, and we're going to pray in tongues. Hallelujah, let's do it. Oh, we love you, Jesus. So koho rashada kahala busida. Lo rashada kahala busida. Let the Holy Spirit fall. He's here. Feel His power. Feel His power. See you talking, and the Holy Spirit is just going to whisper in your ear what to say. You have the answer. Don't stop. Don't stop. This is the greatest day of your life next to the day you got saved.
This is child abuse. And I wanted to address the issue of how religion brainwashes their youngest in a way that they had never seen before. And I produced a video, and if you'll indulge me for 5 minutes, I'll play it for you tonight. It's something that religious people and non-religious people are talking about. I call it Welcome to This World.
Hello, my child. Welcome to this world. Before you grow up, there are a few things I need to tell you. You were born corrupt. You were born a sinner, and the wages of sin is death. Someday, when you are old enough to understand, you must ask forgiveness. Not for anything you've done, but for what others did thousands of years ago at the beginning of the world. Also, you must tell God how sorry you are for murdering His Son Jesus. I know, it happened generations before you drew your first breath, and it was ultimately part of God's divine plan, but the responsibility is yours. You are guilty, and you must ask to be forgiven. A portion of everything you produce in your lifetime must be given to God, who will never accept your offerings personally. You will listen for Him, but His voice will never be heard audibly. You will thank Him for His direction and guidance, but His mysterious ways will confuse you. In fact, although you are more important to God than anything else in the universe, He will never show you His face or reveal Himself in any provable way. I know this seems strange. To truly know God, you must study a book, an ancient book, written thousands of years ago in a language you do not understand. You must fulfill a great commission to make others see the world as you do, to have them believe as you do, to live as you do, and then to go out and convince even more to do the same. As a reward for this, you will be given the privilege of praising God without end, for all eternity, in a hidden, happy place that can only be seen by the dead. You must pledge your entire life on this earth to your invisible Father and His Great Commission, or He will send you to a dark pit where the flesh is roasted from your bones and you writhe in unimaginable agony forever and ever and ever. But you must not do this because you fear horrible torture and pain. You must do it because you love God. No matter what happens throughout your lifetime, the more your world seems to defy everything I've taught you here, just continue to say the words out loud. God is real. God is good. And one day, you will look into the eyes of your own child, and you'll teach him these very same things, so that he can someday teach his own children, and their children, and their children, for generations. You'll hold him in your arms, and you'll look down at him and say, "Welcome to this world."
This is what I know how to do. This is my method for keeping the conversation fresh. I think in your life, you should play to whatever gifts you have. Whatever you're good at, whatever reasoning you're best at, whatever angle is the best fit for you, do that. Play to your strengths. Does that help at all, sir? Yeah. Thank you very much. People will often ask me, look, I want to do more. I'd like to, can I start a blog? Do I do a YouTube page? And I don't know. I would say, I don't know. What are you good at? Otherwise, you're going to be playing against your strengths, which I consider to be largely counterproductive. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I am an atheist. And I don't need any advice. And I just wanted to say that what I struggle with is the feelings of anger and superiority and thinking that people who are believers are not very smart. And I know that's not true, that there are all kinds of people who are believers, and I think your talk tonight and the videos you showed are respectful of that
Thank you.
fact. And this is the first time I've been in a room full of atheists, and it's just wonderful. And I never know how to finish. So thank you.
What you do is you throw your hand up in the air and you go, "Thanks for coming out, St. Louis!" Woo! Thank you so much for the kind words. Look, I hear this a lot. I'm in a room with idiots. And you feel that way. And you know, sometimes it's true. But anyone who believes that just because someone takes a non-theist position that they are intelligent and wise and thoughtful, you have not visited the YouTube comment section at the Thinking Atheist. I interviewed a guy at the University of Central Oklahoma, Dr. Caleb Black, and he said it best. He said, YouTube comment sections where discourse goes to die. You feel the IQ points just being whittled down. I've had people who are non-believers who come to me who still think we faked the moon landing. You'll find people, I've had people come to me who've had the most bizarre personalities and points of view who call themselves atheists. Conversely, you'll find people like Dr. Francis Collins, who is one of the big men behind the Human Genome Project, who is an evangelical Christian and author. Now, he himself is a champion for evolution, right? He wrote in his book that the evidence demonstrates that for humankind to be where we are today, there would have had to have been thousands, I think over 10,000 humans on the earth at the moment of creation. He just refuted his own holy book. That's why I bring Dr. Collins up in conversation as much as possible, because whenever they say, well, of course, an atheist scientist is going to support evolution, I say, no, actually, he's an evangelical Christian. It's beautiful. Wonderful. I feel your frustration in the argument in the arena of ideas. I feel your frustration when people believe that a 600-year-old guy filled a floating zoo with camels and penguins and hamsters and T-Rexes and floated the earth and repopulated it via incest in just a few thousand years. Yeah, I understand your frustration. But understand that unfortunately, atheism is not necessarily a guarantee of intellectual prowess. Let's do a few more real quick and then we'll wrap it up.
Hi, I'm Naomi, and actually I met you in Little Rock way back when, so I'm glad that you were able to make it up to St. Louis. And actually I don't have a question, I'm not asking for advice, I just simply want to say thank you. I mean, I'm 38 years old, I was questioning religion since I was 16, and I didn't have the guts to come out until I really started looking online for help, and I found your website and listened to a podcast, and it just helped me, I guess, give me the balls big enough to come out, and so I just wanted to say thank you. That was it.
Can I ask you real quick?
Yeah.
So, why didn't you come out? Was it you were still navigating what you did and did not accept or believe, or were there personal or professional consequences? I mean, whatever you're comfortable speaking about. What was the problem?
Personal, I didn't want family to reject me, and I still, even now, I still have a little bit of a fear of hell. It was just dug into me so hard when I was a kid. So.
Does anyone else experience that? I didn't want to go to hell, even after you were a non-believer. How screwed up is that? And was it programmed into you at a very early age? Right? Look, heaven and hell are the good cop and the bad cop. It's the carrot and the stick. They promise heaven, beauty and happiness and pearly gates and streets of gold and joy and bliss and no pain, and you're going to get a mansion. It's going to be awesome. And if that's not enough to convince you, they come over here and say, by the way, you sure don't want to go to hell, do you? Right? By the way, I had someone say that if they went up to heaven and it was the scriptural heaven where it was nothing but 24 hours a day, 7 days, or whatever the time period is going to be in heaven, nonstop praising to God, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, over and over, they would look at Yahweh and go, hey, can I go to hell?
Can I say something to Alex before you have kids? Talk about it. Seriously, because I came out when my children were 5 and 6, and it was a nightmare trying to work with my husband on how we were going to raise them. We finally we have them in a humanitarian Sunday school, which is awesome. They learn about
Unitarian?
No, humanist.
Oh, okay.
Humanist. I apologize. Humanist Sunday school, and it's wonderful. They learn about everything, all the religions, and it's a wonderful thing. So.
Cool. All right, thank you.
So talk now, before the kids come.
How you guys doing? You got a few more minutes for me?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's kind of an odd setup, isn't it? I feel like I'm come forward and I give you the wafer and the communion cup, and isn't that what it feels like? Have you guys seen that poster on the internet for communion? It says, "Eat Jesus, one cracker at a time."
Hi, my name's Renee. Basically, I was debating with my friend Jerry about religion, and I am an atheist, obviously, and one of my biggest things is that when people come to me and they're like, oh, well, Jesus, God spoke to me. I'm like, well, how do you know it was God? And they're like, well, because I'm very religious. And one of my favorite things to say is, well, how would you know what God is telling you is proper? But when, say somebody bombs for religion and they're like, oh, it's because God told me to. Well, that was the devil. Well, put yourself in their position. If you heard those words, well, God's telling you to kill your firstborn son or to go bomb an abortion clinic. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, it's just wrong.
Look, someone who hears the voice of ghosts, dead ancestors, beings from other planets, whatever, are just as convinced as Christians are that they are hearing the truth. Anecdotal evidence, personal experience evidence does not help us at all in the arena of ideas. And I think if personal experience has convinced him, you're not going to probably make much in the way of headway. Are you guys familiar with the God helmet experiments, where they take the magnets and stimulate the frontal lobes and are actually able, in some cases, to replicate the feeling of a supernatural presence in the room? People will report, man, I feel God is here. Well, there's a chemical reaction taking place. It's the same. I spoke to a nurse on the podcast. It was talking about the people who experience near death or actual death and are then resuscitated, right? And the chemicals and the chemical reactions of the brain, natural physiological explanations exist for what and how people experience what they experience. But until it's something I can hold in my hand or measure, it does not help me, because for every person who says, Jesus spoke to me and I just know, there's a Muslim who says, Allah spoke to me and I just know. You know, there's somebody on the steps at Graceland going, the ghost of Elvis Presley spoke to me and I just know. Those are all equal in the arena of ideas, and they are useless for us when determining what is true. Fair enough? Yes, sir.
Yes, I am Jerry, the guy who almost got thrown under the bus by his friend Renee, but she decided not to at the last second for whatever reason. Praise Jesus. No, okay, seriously though. I was musing earlier today, and I muse on this somewhat often. I read an article where apparently scientists have made a functioning kidney. They went and grew it, and it sits in a little beaker dish in peas. But, you know, scientifically, they're proud of that. Is there any chance of, have you ever mused on the possibility of there being a hierarchy? Like, I mean, we can already grow our own organs. How long is it till artificial intelligence starts to at least be able to fake it? You know, and I've heard the argument of, you know, someone out there just kind of put human beings or life in general together and then they died, and kind of a weird, I don't know what science fiction spin on it, but I mean, really.
Look, a Roomba is smarter than I am already. You know what I'm saying?
Just amused.
Do I think that one day artificial intelligence will surpass our own? I have no idea.
Could we make it and be suddenly being praised as, oh, they're gods, when really we're just a bunch of money-hungry idiots who found something
anything's
nice
possible, I guess. You know, you can hypothetical yourself to death, probably. I think anything with power and intelligence will be construed as a god by somebody, somewhere, somehow. So.
That's true. All right, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks a lot.
How you doing, Seth? Christian Foley. I introduced you to Bob on Facebook with the podcast. About 6 weeks ago, I had to go in and have some surgery done, sinuses, and clear some things out, right? The hospital calls up and does their little preview. You know, any allergies, any known this, etc. Well, my wife was actually home when the phone call happened. My wife is nominally Catholic, but when they asked what religion I was, should, you know, the terrible thing happen during surgery, she just automatically said, well, he's an atheist. Her saying that surprised me. And the reason why was because I never called myself that. I never addressed myself that. I had been living this way without religion for 20 plus years. It was who I was. So to the people who have been married to somebody who is religious, it can work. But there are sometimes some things that you might, as an atheist, need to think about that you don't necessarily want to think about. Like, what would you say in that case? To add to that, for those of you that may be in a religious relationship or are possibly going into one, my wife being nominally Catholic means she never goes to Mass. She never does the rosary. She never does anything like that. And for the most part has nothing but disdain for evangelical Christians as it is anyway. Last Christmas, she was incredibly stressed with work. And where we live in Belleville, Illinois, we have what's called Our Lady of the Snows Shrine. We like to go there every year, look at the Christmas lights, and hey, it's okay, it's a Jesus story and lights, along with some inappropriately placed sheep. But if you've ever been through it, it literally looks like the sheep are just having fun. But anyway, we get to the section of the shrine that's called the grotto. They usually have the Virgin Mary up there and all the lights. And if you've ever been to Catholic Church, you know what that looks like. And she goes up, she puts her money in, and she lights a candle, and she says a little prayer and does her whole thing. And there comes a point when you have those religious people in your life that sometimes they need those traditions. Sometimes they need those touchstones. That those are the times when you need to remember that some of these things do matter to the people that you care about, and it's not always about you having to be right. And that's one of the reasons why I say thank you for what you do, because you've always approached it, Seth, as they're still people. They're still people, regardless of what they believe, or sometimes as much of a jerk as they can be at times. But they are still people, just like you and me. So really, it wasn't much of any question, just some general comments.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm a professional videographer. From time to time, I'm asked I call in a favor from a friend. Friend's father dies. Family's not going to be able to make it in for the funeral, so they say, Seth, would you come out and videotape the service? And of course, you know me, I can't do it halfway. I'm bringing 2 cameras out, and I'm micing everybody, and I've got mics here and there, and I do the whole title scene. I mean, I'm doing everything. But I'm doing the video. Well, I'm there. The whole funeral, and a devoutly religious man he was, the whole funeral is about what? Heaven and God and reuniting. These people are coping, right? Are they coping in a healthy way? Not in my opinion. But they are. It's obvious what they're using their religion for. They're getting through. They're trying to deal with the unimaginable. They're trying to get into another day. I understand it. We're doing a show on the 23rd of this month called Grief Beyond Belief, where we're going to deal again with the subject of grief, and I digress there. But I'm host of one of the most popular atheist communities on the internet, and I'm there in the middle of all those believers. Is that the right time for me to say to people, God, this is a bunch of crap? Right? Who are you guys praying to? Look, if he was going to save him, he would have saved him. Instead of what? What are you thanking him for? The guy was still a young man. He still had decades left of. His sons didn't get a chance to say goodbye to him. What's that about? I mean, I could have gone to town, and I'm not saying I didn't have those thoughts while I was behind the video camera, right? But it became more of a forensic experience where you're looking at it and you're dissecting it, like I am seeing what is happening. You're seeing people say the words of comfort. You're seeing people hug each other and embrace the notion that one day this man will not be gone forever, but we'll see him soon, right? Death is temporary. This life is temporary. I understand it. And even though I would have been in the right to challenge what they were saying, he's absolutely right that I think there is a time and a place. And we as non-believers do ourselves a disservice when we do a shitty job of choosing our battles. You have to take into context time and place, and is this the right time and place? And that way, when the right time and place does come about, you can go in with guns loaded, you're ready to go. And you can do so with head held high. You haven't gone in and trotted on someone else's grief or ruined someone else's party, but you've done the right thing and had the right argument and been productive instead of just trying to be right. Very well said, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. I'll do 2 more. Come on up.
Hi, Seth. My name is Rhonda, and as I was watching the phone call video earlier, I realized that probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have been the mother in that video, because my daughter started telling everyone that she was an atheist when she was 13 years old, started explaining to everybody that she knew why she didn't believe and exactly what it was she didn't believe. And I had arguments with her all the time. And honestly, for me, the main thing with that was, it was because I was uncomfortable. I had questions that I didn't want to look at, and I didn't want to get the answers to. So it was more that than that I was ever angry at her. And for me, whenever I was raised in a Baptist family, but whenever I finally gave up and started calling myself first a humanist and then an atheist. Basically, the hardest part for me was I wanted to see everybody that I used to know and that I loved whenever I died. I mean, that was the hardest part. That was what I didn't want to give up. So, but now it's like I realize there's a lot of stuff I want gone whenever I'm gone. So it's time for things to end sometimes, you know?
Yeah, fair enough. Live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. Is that what we're talking about? I interviewed a young lady whose twin daughters were stillborn. And what do people do in times of crisis? They come forward and they say, God needed more angels in heaven, right? They're in the arms of God. They're in the arms of Jesus. Now, she's in a moment of tremendous, unbelievable grief. She is a non-believer. Are these words of comfort to her? No. But, and she'll say this, she actually has a website called Living Without Them, where she said, healing from that for me was more healthy in the long run. Not putting it off on God. Not telling myself a fanciful story just to keep myself happy. Not living in a bubble, but embracing the reality of it, knowing, and she said these words, I'll never see my daughters again, right? But knowing that, she managed to base her feet in reality, move forward and reconstruct her life. And actually she had another child, a healthy baby, and her life moves forward. And I am convinced that recovery from any kind of crisis, no matter how difficult, is more healthy, it's just better when based in the real world. Comfort isn't quite enough. If it's not true, it needs to be true. And the people in this room, I'll bet you guys can give some comfort, right? Someone in your family, a friend, has a moment of crisis. While they're looking to the sky, they just have to look down, and who are they going to see? They're going to see you. And be right there, and be holding them and hugging them and waiting in the waiting room and bringing groceries to their house and calling them and saying, I love you, and buying them cards and reminding them every single day. Trust me, I would take a human-to-human moment of compassion and love any day over the eye in the sky. Absolutely, absolutely.
And one other thing, I was like 47 or 48 whenever I figured it out, so.
I don't feel so bad. Come forward, young lady.
I don't know if you want to.
I got you. I got this.
My name's Hillary, and I really appreciate, I'm glad I made it. I was a little late. And my story's just a little different. I thought I might share just a snippet of it. I actually grew up in an atheist house, and my dad was an adamant atheist. And my sisters actually have become, preceding generations, we were Jewish.
I'm going to hold that up a little closer.
I'm sorry. Preceding generations, we were Jewish, and my sisters have returned to it, and I'm still, I'm not practicing anything, I'm still an atheist. And it's interesting to me, I just have, in fact, I grew up among atheists. I mean, not just my family, but the school I went to, there were a lot of atheists. The community I was in, there were a lot of atheists. In fact, when I started making friends that were believers, I was like incredulous. Like, you believe in what? And it was just like, I sort of, but what I've come to, I mean, now I sort of see religion as a metaphor, a lot of different metaphors, and a lot of metaphors that I embrace, actually. And I see myself as not thinking that differently than people who are religious, but except for the storyline that's behind it. And I don't know, for some people it's really like everything starts with God, and for me everything starts because we're a good person. I mean, it's sort of that question of why are you moral if you don't believe in God? And that just seems sort of ludicrous because I'm a fellow human being. But it's just, I really appreciate your talk, and it's been interesting to hear other people's experiences of coming to atheism, being a little different than being raised in atheism.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Can I leave you guys with a word of encouragement? I don't have a script for this. I'm just going to dive into the deep end and see what happens. You ready? It'll probably be a few weeks, and the radio podcast is going to hit 500,000 downloads in a month. We're seeing bestsellers on the New York Times bestseller list by non-believers, right? Started, well, I don't know if it started with, but it really got underway with The Portable Atheist by Christopher Hitchens, and God is Not Great, and man, do I miss that guy. Right? The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, a game-changing book. Sam Harris's Letter to a Christian Nation. Non-belief is the #1 fastest growing, quote unquote, religious denomination. In other words, if they had to find a category for us, they're going to find the religious category being the best fit, right? You either believe or you don't. We represent the fastest growing demographic in the country right now. I was speaking with David Silverman, the president of the American Atheist, on a recent podcast, and he made this assertion, and I think it has merit. He said he believes in 20 years, in the next 20 years, the war will largely be won against superstition. The battles will always happen, right? We'll always see the skirmishes. Religion's never going away. But it will be marginalized by good science, by accurate history, by common sense, by reason, to the point where it is now the aberration. And free thought, or none, non-religious, is the norm. Maybe I'm living in a fantasy world, but I love the idea. And honestly, with the strides we're taking, with the information science is providing, with the discoveries we're making in our own genome and throughout the cosmos, I don't think it's all that far-fetched. Imagine what our country is going to look like in 2 short decades. And it starts here. Started a few years ago, really underway. And what you do, what you say, what you post, who you connect with, how you conduct yourselves, and the fact that you are standing tall as free thinkers, as people who embrace rationality and reason, who aren't afraid to ask questions and expect good answers, because you are standing against what is often a really, really strong religious tide, because you're making the sacrifices in your personal life, many of you in your professional life, because of the risks, and many of them are serious risks you are taking in your life to stand up against mythology and superstition in this crazy world. You are paving the way to make the path easier for those to walk tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Be encouraged. You are not broken. You are not deceived. You are not an agent of the evil one. You are not a pervert. You are not anything that they brand you to be because you do not fit in their cookie cutter. You are something to be celebrated, which is an individual. There's never been anyone like you. There will never be anyone like you again. And what you do and the mark you leave on this planet will be something that no one else at any time in any place can ever exactly duplicate. So celebrate the life that you have and the time that you are alive, because the world is changing, and it's changing for reason. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.